Okay, we're ready for Rich Kaplan, cleared for takeoff. And Rich, I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago that there was a front page story in Newsday about talking about the safety of small planes, and after two horrific plane crashes here in Long Island, and we knew you'd be all over it, so we give you Rich Kaplan, cleared for takeoff.
Thank you. This week we're going to be talking about two high-profile crashes in June. The death of Ken Johansson, who was a pilot for the Geico Skytypers, and a Piper Aztec that crashed off the coast of Amagansett. In 2010, there were 471 fatalities and 272 fatal accidents. Since then, the number of fatal crashes has drastically reduced to 209 in 2017, with 347 fatalities. So clearly the FAA is aware of this, and they're on top of it. The problem is that there's not, in my opinion, there's not enough adequate training to certify pilots. So it's very easy to get a pilot's license, but the problem is maintaining situational awareness, maintaining the necessary skills to be a pilot. When you fly, anyone can tell you, okay, I can fly an airplane. Back in World War II, my father even told me, if you had a driver's license, they'd take you. That's all you needed, was a driver's license and good eyesight. They were that desperate. Today, it's a whole different ballgame. Now you have GPS, you have avionics, you have very complex cockpit systems, you have voice recorders. But in general aviation, you don't have that, Howie, because these are private aircraft. These are aircraft that are owned by the general flying public. The case of Johansson, witnesses say that he wasn't even fighting the aircraft, the plane just went down. He just went with it. I don't believe that, only because I know Ken personally. I know from his experience with the T-6 Texan, it's not an easy airplane to fly. It's an aerobatic trainer. And because of that, there's a lot of skill that goes into it. There's a lot of situational awareness regarding aerobatic flying. If you've ever been to the Jones Beach Air Show, these are those World War II era airplanes, the ones that sound like hummingbees when they go by. And Johansson was a good friend. I miss him because he was an amazing man, very gifted. But getting back to the topic at hand, I think what needs to be done, currently the FAA now requires 3 takeoffs and 3 landings prior to certification. So if you're certified, you have to do 3 takeoffs and 3 landings and display to the FAA that these 3 landings and takeoffs were done in order to maintain your certificate. I think that is vital, because we need to know that you still know how to fly. We need to know that you still have the skills and the situational awareness to maintain an aircraft. It's not like driving a car. An airplane is a very complex machine, and you have to master it, you have to understand it, Howie, you have to finesse it. It's not something that comes overnight. Even in flight simulation, which is what I do, I have a lot of difficulty maintaining situational awareness on the F-18. It's a very tough aircraft, and the F-18 is a twin-engine fighter jet. It is a beast. I'm going to tell you right now, very different flying than a Cessna. But if there is one thing I will say, it's that IOPA, which is the Aircraft Owners and Pilot Association, is mandating that pilots maintain their training, maintain their certificates, and do pre-flight checks and everything, which is vital. You have to do this. You have to know that the equipment you're flying is top-notch. But it's also about safety. You have to maintain safe distance. You just don't go flying. Like, for example, for those who live in Long Beach, I know you guys always see the airplanes flying low altitude over the beach and stuff. They have to be cleared by JFK Tower just to be there, because Kennedy traffic comes over Long Beach and Island Park. So it's separate airspace. You have airspace for commercial jets, you have airspace for private aircraft, and then you have airspace for the military. So these 3 zones have to constantly be maintained. And as a pilot, you need to understand that. It's not just about the physics of flight, of situational awareness, of equipment maintenance. It's about knowing where you are, knowing what your aircraft is capable of, and knowing what you as a pilot is capable of, Howie. You don't just get the certificate, you gotta earn it. It's a lot of work. You have countless hours of training both in the air and on the ground, written tests as well as flight tests. I think that the FAA needs to monitor this a lot closer. I think that we as the flying public need to demand more monitoring of the safety aspects of the aircraft. We need to make sure that these planes, before they even leave the ground, are safe to fly. We need to know that the engines are working, that the avionics are working, that everything is tip-top, and that the pilot's skills are at the top level. If they're not, then they shouldn't be flying.
Great job, Rich Kaplan. Cleared for takeoff.